Hello and welcome to Progressive Mindset. I'm Bradley Monday.
And I'm Jason Kemsley. And today we're going to jump into how to accelerate your growth, how to grow faster, retain for longer, using customer experience and really driving home that. Let's look at this how the customer looks at it and make them as happy as we can possibly be. You had a quote this morning. I think I want to start with that. That's a motivating.
So be obsessed or be average was the quote that we started our leadership team meeting this morning with, and it's just really all about being obsessed in what you do, right? No one wants to be average, and the obsession is required in order to drive through all of the learning, all of the failures, all of that sort of stuff,
and consistently.
Yeah,
you can always be better.
Just consistently go at it. And so I think it is a good quote to have in mind when we talk about that customer experience. We should all obsess over our customer experience, how they feel through every single part of the journey as they engage with our business.
And that's really where I wanted to kick off this with is I think there's many businesses listening. There's many entrepreneurs maybe listening that are going to get into business, and not enough businesses or people tend to take a step back and look at this through their customers' eyes. Mm-hmm. It's very easy when you are inside what you do to feel like you're doing a great job, or you're doing people love us, but do they? Okay, so let's step back. Let's look at this through a customer's perspective, and there are some fundamental things which go together to make a successful experience. And I wanted to kick off with emotions.
Yep.
We don't think about them enough, but they are directly linked to customer experience, obviously, and it differs. I know we will talk about it from B2C, B2B, product, service, depending on what you do. This all slightly differs, but the concept is the same. I think the last emotion that you had with a business is your lasting emotion with the business. I might have created a quote for myself there. But if I remember my last emotion with them was excitement or ecstatic or really impressed, that's going to be what I share. That's going to be what I take with me when I have a need again for that particular thing.
Yeah, agreed. And this is actually it's a proven concept that some businesses use, where they get you to buy into something quite small.
Yep.
And you start, and actually, it still very much plays on emotions. The habit is built up of that's where I go for those things, and you build up this desire and a habitual behavior where you start to buy the next thing and the next thing, and they get bigger, and that might be a set of products, it might be services, and it is about retaining that good feeling about that.
Absolutely.
That company.
It's a loss leader, right? A lot of banks do it in the UK. Will give you X amount of money to move your bank to us, because we then know you are worth an average of X, and because of our experience levels, we're going to keep you for Y. Mm-hmm. And so we can go in and give you something crazy to begin with to invite you in. And so when you go through, let's say I'm buying a product, I'm buying an electrical product, there's so many places I could get it. And so customer experience is one way of defining yourself or creating a difference.
Yep.
When I order it, I'm going to be excited. I've just got that thing I want. It might be a very mild level of excitement, but there's a positive emotion behind it. I've ordered the thing I want. The next thing that happens, we want to keep that emotion high. We want to keep everyone's coming to you for a need. There's a need behind why they're engaging. So there's usually a positive emotion behind the starting point. Now our job is we want to keep it there for as long as we can. And there might be some fluctuations, but we want to keep it as high up the graph, if you like, as much as we can.
And so in your example there, there's I guess two organizations that are trying to do that. You've gone to, in this instance, buying an electrical product. You've gone to a website that is probably just distribution for said product.
Yep.
They are going to want to be joining in that journey so that they're the chosen distributor you go for your next product. But also you've got the creator of the product, the manufacturer, that's also going to be involved in that journey. So it doesn't, what I'm trying to highlight there, I guess, is it doesn't really matter what part of the journey a customer experience is you're involved in. You can still very much engage with the customer and keep their experience throughout high.
Absolutely. And so to take that example and let's just digest it. and extract some bits from it. I've jumped on this website. What is the user experience like? What is the customer experience like? Obviously a huge part of website creation.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep me on there. They want to keep me for as long as possible. So I've purchased. What communication am I getting to tell me about my order, when I can expect it, the process, etc.? What courier have you then passed that to? If you passed it to a courier that has no customer experience values, there are couriers out there that are well known for being the cheapest.
Yeah.
If you set up and you've created this beautiful website, there's no good then choosing a budget courier, because unfortunately it's going to tail off, right? Website was great, didn't get what I wanted, so overall I'm packaging that whole thing as rubbish.
Yeah, agreed.
And then, right, I've now got what I wanted. You've given me everything I needed in that one transaction. What's my experience like from here on in? Do I do like some people do, I'm going to send you a daily newsletter that's going to irritate you and it's not of any value or any use? Or are you going to send me the occasional newsletter that's tailored based on what you know from me? And so maybe I do read it. And all of this comes back to what's our customer look like? What do we want to give them? And have we got this crazy high starting point and then it just drops off a face? Because you might as well be good all over than excellent followed by bad.
Absolutely. So obviously ties into that is the delivery notifications. They should be generated by you as the business. You've got tie-ins, right? It's been picked up. This is where it is. Or even before then, we've packed your product. It's awaiting pickup. It's been picked up. It should be with you now. Hey, why not? Are you happy with your product? If so, here's how we leave a review. If not, here's our returns process. Make that easy.
Stop hiding it at the bottom. Yeah. Don't hide it at the bottom piece.
I had purchased again. I actually purchased an electronic piece of equipment the other day, and it was probably 2 weeks later. I got a call from the manufacturer. They were only a small shop, but it doesn't have to get lost when you get bigger. They were a small shop, and they called me just to see how I was going with the product. Did I need anything? Was it meeting my needs? Had I ordered the right thing? It was the uniqueness that stood out. I was like, this is awesome. No one ever calls me to find out how it's going, and you don't. I think that can scale, just because of what it brings in customer loyalty and that sort of stuff. If I need something of the same ilk, I'll almost seek out the same manufacturer.
And you might even change what you want slightly if they've got something that 80% fits it because you want to use them.
Yeah.
Again,
I had. It's important to know I had no desire to go for that brand. I wasn't looking for a brand. I was actually looking for the cheapest thing in its field to get a job done, and I happened to purchase that brand. So, but through the experience beyond that, they've managed to buy some level of brand loyalty based on the experience that I had as a customer.
And it doesn't. There's a correlation, right, between that was a budget in its field,
mm-hmm.
and they could still do that. I think a lot of people say there's not enough margin for us to do these. There's always a way of finding some sort of method of achieving it.
And probably depends on the cost center in which you look at it as. If that was an after-sales care piece, yeah, probably there isn't. But actually, if you're looking at it, well, is that almost a marketing engagement to drive up repeat
average
purchases,
customer value
and customer loyalty and length? So you've got to look at things through the customer's eyes to work out what sort of spend this is, and is it really an after-sale cost, or is it creating repeat purchase and those kind of things?
Absolutely, and that links into the second thing I want to talk about: expectations. You can't always be perfect, right? In our onboarding process in our business, it's not that it's painful. It's very slick, considering what we are doing and what we're achieving. But there is a period of a few weeks of onboarding to our service where you just want to get going. You just want to get going. Yeah. And we actively talk about in a sales capacity, hey, it typically takes this amount of time. I know it's frustrating. These are the reasons behind it. And what I'm getting to there is not everything has to be perfect. Not everything has to be the finished article, because we are all evolving entrepreneurs that have always got the next funny idea or crazy way of doing something. But what we have to do is we have to have a transparent journey for them to go on that we can talk about as well. And so, yes, there might be, oh, this is frustrating. Like in ours, sometimes they're like, I just want to go. But they
there's gotta be a
know,
reason.
actually, no, do you know what? I want to do this stuff because I know they do it for quality reasons and all of these other reasons. And so we have a small dip, I suspect. And I wish there was a real good way of measuring it. Maybe we can put heartbeat monitors or Google Watches or something on them in the future. But we have a small dip, but it doesn't, we're still at, no, this is really good. This is really good.
I want to just focus in on something you said there about not aiming for perfection, and sort of highlight that in your customer journey. If we don't do something because we're waiting for it to be perfect, or we're spending our time doing it, then it's not making any impact. Actually, it's, as you said, okay to be imperfect and evolve something over time, because actually what you thought is perfect through your customer's eyes may not be, and the only way to find that out is to go live with something, and perfect it over time as your customers engage with the process. So I guess to the listeners, viewers, don't aim for that. Don't just sit and perfect things without getting it out there in front of your customers to see how it works. I guess work on the minimum viable product approach. Get something that's functional to a point. Get it out there, and then take feedback.
And we have that so much in the industry we're in. So much tinkering, aiming for perfection. Then the next tool comes out, and then you've got to do another part, and then you've just learnt this thing, and you almost, if you're a new business, you could not go to market for years because you spend so much time playing. Actually, there is a balance here between revenue, progression, customer experience, and there is a happy medium as long as you keep reflecting from the customer's perspective. And talking about sort of the emotions piece and stuff, this all correlates with how often you're communicating as well.
Yeah.
Right, is the periods where you expect that emotion to drop off should be the periods where you bring up your levels of communication.
Yeah, and we definitely work in a communications industry. That's literally what we are, right? And I think that probably, thinking on the spot, extends to many businesses, especially when you're in the service industry. You should consider yourselves, actually, you're in the communications industry. How well are we getting our messaging out there at all times? I want to unpack a little bit about, we talked about putting ourselves in the customer's shoes and all this sort of stuff. Let's, as takeaways, let's talk about how are we making sure that actually when we put what we believe our customer lens on is actually how our customers feel. How do we collect the data around that? Are we surveying? Are we doing something different? Checking in occasionally? How have you seen work? Obviously, this is your part of
Absolutely
our business.
So it's twofold, right? It's touch points is the main thing. So most people that start working with us, I will have, for some reason or another, a communication method with them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That might not be day one, might be day 20 or whatever, but in our initial welcome, we provide all of the information you need so that there's someone that can help you if you need it. So there's always someone for that relevant feedback. We go the opposite way. We make sure you've always got someone available to share feedback with, as opposed to the corporate world of, here is your account manager, can't get hold of them, good luck. So we've got that. I think events is a huge one. It's a marketing, and I juggle with this often in my head when I'm evaluating expenses for things like that. It is a marketing exercise predominantly, but it is a touch point on the industry, the market, the partners, how they feel. That's a quite an overview specific one.
So
we also capture their feelings at the end of their journey, starting with us.
Okay. So when you talk about going to events, I guess based on that, you don't necessarily need to be exhibiting at these events. You just need to be present. You just need to be around peers, customers, that kind of thing, to get market feedback. And
absolutely, we went to an event this week. We weren't exhibiting. There was, on reflection now, no need for us to go. In some ways, but I saw what the market was doing. I saw how the market was approaching things. It gave me some ideas. We discussed a couple of really cool ideas. It got the creative juices flowing. It got me into that space of I can see how they're presenting. I quite like that bit. I think with events in particular, we always look at what we're going to get from them financially. For me, in that event we done this week, there was no point going financially.
Yep.
But from a creative and looking at it, I was walking around like a customer. You were walking around like a customer for all these products.
And you see the things that are, engage
We saw the busy stalls. We saw the empty stalls.
Indeed, and really look at it. Just put a marketing lens on. You can go to these things with a marketing lens on. Just observe.
Absolutely.
What's working, what's not working.
And we have a partner that is super successful in that. They predominantly work with lawyers. They don't attend the IT events, which you would think they would. They're an IT company. They go to lawyer events, and they're looking at how are people approaching lawyers. How are lawyers seeing things? What ways could I make it better for them? And I think that's a super. We spoke about it in a previous episode. Putting yourself in the customer's shoes is the first way to see what their expectations and experience levels have been set at. As a consumer, it's not difficult for a company to blow you out the water and make themselves look really good, because a lot of the corporate brands are well known for not being great at customer experience.
I'm just thinking whether it's worth touching on in this episode is we've talked about being market leading in lots of stuff and making groundbreaking changes. There's definitely a correlation here between taking too much feedback from your customers about what they want and the experience that they want, stifling your creativity. Sometimes a customer only thinks they know what they want because
of what they want.
And because of what's out there as well. Is thinking can be limited in, well, if these are the 4 products available to me, I look at what's best in the 4 products available to me. But if you create a 5th that comes about fixing a problem in a completely different way, you're not going to get that through feedback from customers necessarily, because they're working on what's out there.
Yep.
Right. So it's important to look at it from a journey perspective, but not necessarily in your creative processes.
And I think it's a really interesting point. I think it's stuff you need to think about and not discount, but I think it's stuff that also is the building blocks. And what I mean by that is they've come to you because you're an expert in your particular vertical field, whatever you do. So every decision you make should have some of what they've said in mind, and it maybe be a polishing touch or whatever, but they don't have the data you have as to sometimes the best ways to fix a problem or solve something. And so just trying to, I think there's definitely if I went through our new customer feedback list, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there would definitely be a comment that suggests something that would have fixed maybe making them quicker, but no one else quicker.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're just not privy to the quirks of your business. They use you as an expert, right? But you can still read into it. What were they feeling? Why did they feel like that? We could at least have communicated with them. We could have at least set expectations. So there's always a learning.
Yeah. So look at it with the eyes of all of your customers and work out what might have made things better, but don't necessarily go and change things for the sake of...
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a fine line, right? Super fine line. I think, and this is something you said actually earlier, which has started giving me thought-provoking ideas, and
you're welcome.
My brain's going, is you spoke about, and going into expectations, if you don't lead what they should think, they will come up with their own thinking behind it. So what I mean by that is, if you don't lead the experience, if you don't lead the journey, they will decide what that journey looks like, or they will decide what they expect. And so I think that's a huge point we should probably touch upon.
Yeah. So this is definitely, this came about, and it may apply to both sides of the coin, but this came about from a post-sale perspective, and it was the way in which they perceive a service. after it goes live. And again, probably goes into the realms of product as well. But let's look at it from a service perspective to begin with. Is in the absence of any engagement with your team or your business in some way, shape, or form, the service that has been perceived, they'll decide,
is open to interpretation.
they'll interpret, did that meet their needs? And so we've all been to, if you're already in business, you've definitely been through the process of, you'll have a conversation with a customer about their needs pre-sale, you'll sell them a product, and then they'll start talking about different things that had never come up before. And especially in the world of services, is, hey, we want to fix these things. But then as you go through the process, the creative juices start flowing and you start going,
I could do this with that. I could do,
absolutely. And I think it can be, if it's a very ingrained service, you can get to a point of, actually, you've long forgotten what you initially agreed as a customer. And now you're over here going, oh, but it didn't fix these new things. Absolutely, it's been a success, but these new things, it's not hitting the button on. And sometimes it needs that engagement from someone to go, right, let's have a look at the service so far. What's the
absolutely,
has it met your initial goals? Let's review those. And suddenly it changes, going back to emotions, it changes the emotion that's felt that, you know what, actually this is really doing what it needs to do. It's what we agreed it would do. But hey, here's some improvement points, or here's some things that I'd love it to do.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's going to be, maybe you just need to change your thinking. This might look better like this because that's how the product's meant to work. And you can just help drive the thinking. You are the expert in your field, as you said earlier, Jace, is they've come to you for a reason. Make sure that you're in front of them, helping drive that experience.
And an analogy comes to my head, and it's a bit pointless and off topic for this podcast, but it's a bit lighthearted. When I got my car, I knew how fast it was going to go. I knew it was 0 to 60 in X, let's say 5 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever. I know what expectations. When I now put my foot down in the car, obviously to the speed limit, and then stop, I sit there and I go, oh, I wish I'd got a faster car. But that's on me now.
Yep.
That's on me, because they told me exactly what that did. They set my expectations. I made a decision with all of this in mind. And I think it's a super pertinent point of also in the, we go back to expectations in the sales process. I think there's real strength in showing some of your flaws, like how you might feel like this is a bit painless. These are the reasons. There is a strength in showing your flaws. I had a sales engagement, me buying something from someone else for the business, and the very first thing they done was they pulled up an A4 piece of paper on Word on the screen, and it was a templated document, and it said, what does success look like? When are you hoping to get there? It was a services business. What is it you want to fix? What is your biggest problem right now that this is going to fix? It was only a few questions, and they were worded in slightly different ways. I think it was a month or 2 months later, we're still in the sales process. It's quite a complex product, and we're still in the sales process. And I've now seen loads of things, and I'm starting to get excited and thinking, oh, I could do that, could do that. And he said, hold up a second. Let's just go back to the original target here that we've got together. And I was like, whoa, I've just seen firsthand how I have made this product suddenly not fit in my brain, because I've completely changed what I foresee, and I've read a book like you like to do, or I've seen a video. And so it's a super powerful thing, is just understanding that throughout the journey.
I think lots of businesses will allow conversations to be led by their customer rather than leading the conversations. And that goes from the experience to the conversations to support, to anything really, is that engagement is the customer is always right to a point, right? Yep. Until actually sometimes they need leading in their being right, right? Is fair. And you just need to take some control. So, bring things back to our business, in that what we do is people call us with problems, and I've seen it time and time again, or even at the service delivery level, people will take what the customer said as gospel.
Yep.
Well, hang on a minute. Let's just remember that you're the expert in your business, in your field. Make sure you ask the right questions. And
It's on you, Mr. Expert, to make sure you've got the valid information.
Yeah. You shouldn't expect your customer
Yep.
to do that. They're doing things with absolutely the best intentions.
And their perspective.
And if you're led by that, actually it can create a world of pain for you and your customer. So it's very, very important through each stage of the cycle to drive that engagement and that conversation with your customer.
Absolutely. And I wanted to just sort of end and talk about the journey. I think a lot of people forget the journey is a never-ending journey. I see so many people talk about the new customer process, etc. We've obviously discussed it just today in a meeting. That journey is a never-ending journey. There is the initial customer flow, and there are expectations, customer experience, things to think about along there. But then there is this evolving cycle. Even if you're a product company,
Yeah, absolutely.
even if you buy a one-off product, there is then this journey. How do we communicate with them? How do we let them know we're still here if they need anything? How do we come across as helpful while not annoying? All these questions are relevant for product and service. And that journey, whilst the details look different, that is part of your customer journey. And what they then go through after they've got the product or while they've got the service, I think too many give the best intentions and they put all their effort into this, bringing them on.
Yeah.
And then the continuous piece drops off. And so what I see in our industry is a lot of work to bring customers on, but 10% of the effort going into retaining.
Yeah, and it's way more expensive to go and find new business than it is to retain existing business or create repeat purchase.
Absolutely. A customer kept is sometimes as good as a customer won.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have spoken about EOS in the past. The EOS customer process is one that I'd recommend going and looking at if you haven't got a customer journey that you can depict and you can actually get down in your documentation and that sort of stuff. It's very powerful to look at a customer journey and really helps on some initial calls to talk through that process of, okay, this is where we'll go, and then we'll fall into this cycle.
Absolutely.
So go and check out the EOS.
Proven process, it's called?
It's the proven process.
Proven process.
Absolutely. And it looks exactly like that. And they use the EOS process to demonstrate it. So
Yep.
you go through some initial discovery days, and then you fall in a cycle of a 12-month cycle.
So even if you're not using EOS, it's a great visual, creative juices flowing. Okay, I see how that works in a document. I see how we can start to process drive that, etc. And then you can take it away and do with it whatever you please.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy to put into a services-led business because you've got this consistent customer. So just to labour the point on products, just for a second, it might be that maybe let's take a mobile phone, for example. It probably has a 2-year life cycle. There's going to be the point throughout that life cycle where actually just over a year in, for some brands, maybe your phone's going to start slowing down when you do the latest update, those kind of things. You just need to look at what happens in your product cycle, whether it's something you may or may not have architected or not, is, okay, this is where the customer might start to feel some pain because they're using an older model. This is the appropriate time to communicate out to them about maybe newer models or what they can do to elongate the life, or maybe you've got a recycle program or whatever that might be.
And I think we've spoken about this. There's a super interesting example of that in one of the large supermarkets in the UK where I can't remember what it is, but you buy baby milk and then around 9-10 months later they'll correctly show they'll correctly do 0 to 1 clothing or the things that a newborn needs, and then they'll go into what a toddler needs, and all with a customer experience lens. So they always lead with, here's some really useful articles about becoming a parent for the first time, and they lead with a customer experience angle, which I found super fascinating.
And that's just part of their loyalty programs and that sort of stuff. So they know what you've purchased through the loyalty program, and therefore
Absolutely.
this is coming through email, it's coming through discount offers and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, but it works with products, right? In that if I go and buy some coffee capsules, you must know how long on average that will last a
Yep.
typical person or a typical household. Okay, so maybe now 2 weeks later, I think they last about a month in my household. I imagine that's about average. Okay, in 20 days, I'm going to send you a nice email to let you know what the latest ones out are. Maybe a little coffee article about the latest one out. And we're going to try and drive some experience. We're going to make it convenient for you. Because convenience is an experience factor. Is I thought it was easy, so I thought it was good. So I like the company.
So you're looking at subscription. Yeah, you might. So I think this whole the process and the journey, as you start to think about it, you can start to come up with new angles that you might not think about. Right? Okay, we're into subscription programs now, right? In terms of, we know when your coffee's going to run out. Do you just want the convenience of the new ones dropping at your door?
Yeah.
Am I going to send you some new flavors around that sort of time so that, hey, I've just run out, better try this one? Are you now buying 2 lots of coffee because actually you quite like the old flavor, but you need the new flavor now as well? So we're going to buy 2 and start to, in the process of ramping up your customer journey, also add in some things that definitely grow your business because we're tying in new products and that sort of stuff. But also as a customer, I'm going, this is pretty
It's
awesome.
fantastic,
You
yeah.
really create brand buy-in, and then we're out there. I'm talking about, hey, have you tried this new flavor and all those kind of things, because they're just built into my journey, and then word of mouth spreads. And so that whole customer journey piece, I think, has so many things that tack onto it outside of bringing on this customer and just seeing them go round and round in your journey, right?
And if I can, I'll just like end with one more example, because I think this is a great example of how everything is customer experience, regardless of if you mean it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Patagonia, the clothing company, are very well known for, if you damage your garment or you damage something, they'll replace it. And I believe they created that through we want to look after the climate, we want to look after the world and the climate crisis, etc. But it makes people love them. And I go out on a limb here, and I might be incorrect. Most people I've spoken to that we've had that conversation, there's only 10 maybe, the vast majority love that as a brand they do that and create that experience and give that loyalty and assurance back to their customers. And so the indirect result of their decision was, the experience is awesome. I buy something, I break it, you're going to help me.
Yep.
The direct reason was, we want to look after the planet, but everything is tied in some way, shape or form to the experience. And so you can make tough decisions, but make a good of it.
Yeah, and so take away from that is to build the customer. Every decision that we make within our businesses should once again come back to the customer experience. How
Absolutely.
is this change impacting our customer? It's not always going to be good, right? It's not always going to be in its original form good for the customer, but there's quite often a way you can
Deliver it.
put the customer lens on so that it's delivered in a, hey, yeah, we've got to let's take prices going up as being a, hey, we've got to put our prices up. But hey, just off the top of my head, it means we're going to be in business in 12, those kind of things. Is if it's a brand that you love, you can spin a story about, and it's not even a story, actually, that's quite genuine, is we do need to put our prices up, not because we're just putting our prices up for the sake of more money, but because that's how we sustain ourselves as a business. So there's always, I think, hey, customers want us to be here because we're a good product and those kind of things. And you can put that in your customer engagements.
Absolutely. And that's a point to end on, which I think is a future topic for me, is authenticity wins.
It absolutely does.
And maybe we need a whole nother discussion on just authenticity.
For sure, we'll put it on the list. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.